You're on.
Alright, so the pasta's done cooking. You drain it and put a little oil on it or a little butter just so it doesn't stick together. And it's not completely done. It's a little chewy. Makes that tacky noise in your teeth. Because if you have it all the way done and you put the cheese sauce on it while it's hot and you put it in the oven, it's going to overcook.
So you take it off a little bit before the time that the box says for al dente.
Alright. So, these are the pans I'm using because I don't have a big one. Just put a little butter. If you have Pam or something, just spray it on. This is just so it won't stick. Don't have to be perfect, just get it in there. Alright, and so I like to have everything ready. And I'm making my sauce in the same pot I did my pasta in, just because the sauce takes up more room than you think it will. So you need a larger holding device. Okay, so we'll start by making a roux. You need a rubber spatula in your pot. Turn the heat on about medium high, and you can always adjust it later. All the butter goes in.
I didn't realize how long of videos you could actually take on the phone.
This is called a roux. It's used for a thickening agent to thicken up the sauce so it's not all melty.
It also helps from the cheese separating the fats and stuff from it.
Holds everything together. It makes a chemical bond.
Bonds the fats.
And you hear that little sizzle as it hits the edge? That means you gotta watch out for the sides of your pan because you don't want your butter to burn before you get your flour in.
And that brown butter. Make it nutty.
We don't want that. See, it's starting to boil, so I'm turning my heat down just a little.
I'm a good cameraman.
You are. Alright. It's just about melted. Alright. So it's all melted. It's a little hot. So sprinkling. Not all of it at once, just a little bit at a time. All of it. Kind of flatten it out so some of it doesn't cook more than other parts. No, that's how it's supposed to be. And the longer you cook it, the less holding power it has, but the more flavor it has. When I get that little stick all across the bottom like that, when it starts to get a full thing.
You want to put your milk first?
Nope.
Interesting.
In goes all that cheesy goodness.
Lower the heat.
Nope. Still on medium. sure, don't let it go up too high on the edges, because it'll burn it thick. I'm going to show her my flame. And it could even go a little bit lower, because you want the cheese to melt. You don't want it to burn or cook. And it takes a while, but it's worth it. Cheers. Yeah, and the cheese will melt, and then you pour all the milk in, so it'll get all that stuff off the bottom. But as you remember, it always does that.
Just make sure heat not too high.
Otherwise it will burn. We don't want that. See, here it goes. And you can't walk away from it. If you walk away from it while it's melting, and you're not watching it and stirring it, your cheese will burn, and then you'll have a funny taste.
Just want to burn on that edge.
See? Kick that off of here. Scraping the edges all the time. Mixing it, making what was the top the bottom. Making what was the bottom the top. See, you could even make the cubes of the cheddar a little smaller, because they do melt really slow. Velveeta, the only thing that's melted in here fully is the Velveeta. Alright, when it gets to this point, you got some bubbles and your cheese going on down there. Getting all melty. Sounds good.
You need a smell can.
Smell-o-scope.
Should have done.
I try and break up, once those cubes get kind of soft, try and break them up, because the smaller the surface area, the faster they melt. Almost ready.
Once you pour the milk, then we'll grind the chicken again and take a break.
See, you don't want something that's going to scrape the bottom of your pan, because you do get that layer at the bottom, and you don't want that mixed into your sauce. You want to leave that. You don't want to try and scrape it off and add it in, because then you get kind of a weird, burnt, toast, nut, gross flavor. Alright, so this is good. It's a good melting. There aren't really any huge clumps of anything. So we have our 2 cups of milk. This is 2%. You can use whatever you want. Sometimes you can use whatever milk you want. If you drink skim, use skim. When I would use skim, I'd put a little creamer in it, just so it has a little more fat, but you don't have to. See now, slowly, the cheese is hotter than the milk, so we gotta get that milk hot and get the cheese to melt into the milk. We don't put the milk in before the cheese because the milk will scald, and then once again you get a weird flavor. You can leave this once it has the milk in it. Crank the heat up just a little bit. It's on medium right now.
Commercial or no?
Alright, so the cheese is almost done. So I have my pans. Let's put my pasta in there.
You should just use this one, huh? Is it all fitting one?
And the reason you like this is because it's mostly cheese and not a lot of pasta.
We're using 2 pans just because we don't have one deep enough to make one.
Alright, and don't forget to stir your sauce. How's it going? And it's not, it was more solid. Now it's kind of gooey and melty. Let me season this. Alright,
Don't forget that butter sauce.
You have to taste it. Alright, go-to seasonings. Chili powder, cayenne pepper, salt, and black pepper. That's it. And don't forget that your pasta is salty too, because you cooked it in that salty water. So you want to be careful on your salt, because the cheeses have salt too. You may not even need any at all. And the butter that you get is probably salted. Take that into consideration. Look at that. It's almost ready. So it doesn't need any salt. I'm going to put a little black pepper in there. A little bit of cayenne pepper. Some chili powder. And look how the cheese is bubbling. That means it's almost ready. And the cheese, when you taste it by itself, should be a little spicy. It's almost done.